Hello, Mayur. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for coming for the interview. Can you please describe yourself?
Hi, sir. My name is Mayur Patil. I am from Dhule, Maharashtra. I have completed my Bachelor's of Engineering in the year 2017. Till now, I have near around 4.66 plus years of experience working as a localization engineer. Currently, I want to switch myself in Salesforce ecosystem, and that's why I am doing Salesforce development courses. And if we talk about my hobbies, I like to play cricket and football. Yeah, that's
Okay. So you mentioned something called a localization engineer. What's that exactly?
So localization engineer is a person who is a, we can say, a bridge between the PM and the technical stuff. So client reach out to us if they want some content to be translated in another languages. For example, any website they are having or any mobile application. So
Okay.
if they want to translate that application or website or any piece of paper that is having a content from one language to another. So for technical stuff, the localization engineer comes in a picture. So we used to write some regular expressions in case to hide the code part, so that translator will not update the code part, because if translator did some changes in the code part, so after the translation that file will not get imported into the client system,
Okay.
and it will cause the error. So these are the few things that localization engineer do.
Okay. So think about कि you're working as a localization engineer. So how come you got and tilt towards this Salesforce then?
So I was working as a localization engineer. So in my last organization, I was working on a contract basis. So in April 2024, they ended my contract. So I was sitting at home in search of new job.
Okay.
So one of my friend refer about one freelancing project that his friend is having. So he asked me whether you know Salesforce or not. So that time I was not aware like what Salesforce technology is, what it does. So I did some research, and he gave me some topics to prepare for the interview.
Okay.
And I did that. So I learned a few basic things about the Salesforce admin, like user management, data management. So these are the things which I learned from some boot camps that we have on YouTube or some Google articles. And I got opportunity to work on one freelancing project where I worked for near around 7.5 months. So while working on that project, I feel that it's a good technology to switch on. And about the market of Salesforce, it's quite good, and maybe many positive news are coming related to Salesforce market. So I thought to switch in this industry. Yeah.
Okay. So do you believe that still that CRM relevance is in the market? So do you think, Mayu, that CRM is still a relevant concept in today's era?
Yeah, so it has to be, because CRM helps customers, means the companies which are using CRM to manage their businesses. So CRM help customers to manage their key functionalities like marketing, sales, customer services. Also, it's provides supports to manage multiple key operations that businesses do. Also, CRM is a strategy which help businesses to manage their interaction with the clients, and it make sure that the connect should sustain throughout the interaction.
Okay. And how exactly this Apex is different from the Java, according to your perspective?
So Apex is also object-oriented programming language, but it has some differences as related to some other object-oriented programming languages. So first one is platform dependency.
Okay.
So as we know, other languages like Java, C Sharp, Python, we can write a code on multiple different platforms or tools that we can use. So, but with Apex, we have some limitations, as Apex only gets executed on a force.com platform. So there is a platform dependency, we can say. Second thing is Apex has built-in support for the databases. So any operations that we want to do with database, like interaction with database, so we have SOQL languages to query the data from database to in our code. Also in Apex, we have some concepts like governor limit,
Okay.
which limits each transaction or the application running application, so that the shared resources will get used equally among all the transactions. So this is not the feature that we will see in other programming languages. Next thing is Apex supports, or it gets changes as per the metadata it's having. Means if we do any change in any field or any object, then then we have to reflect the change in Apex code also. So that is not the thing that we can see in other languages. Also, one drawback I can tell you about Apex. So not means as compared to other languages, Apex has few limitations like multi-threading. We cannot have multiple inheritances in Apex code. So these are the few things which are different apart from other programming languages.
Okay. So in answer you mentioned something called an governor limit, right? What exactly is that and why we need it?
So governor limit is something which is shared among all the transactions which are working on force.com platform. For example, suppose we have one apartment, and in that apartment we have one common parking area. So one house owner occupying all the common parking area. So because of that, other house owners are not getting place to park their vehicle. So as per the meeting rules, so they decided that each flat owner will be able to park only two vehicles in that parking area. So with that rule, what they did, all 10 owners are getting a place to park their vehicle. So governor limit also the same. It sees like all the shared resources will get used by all the running transactions or operations.
Okay. So according to you, then how the Salesforce is managing the large data sets, large transactions in the sense?
So to manage or to work with the large data sets, we have concept of asynchronous apex. So in that asynchronous apex, we have concept of batch apex, which we use to deal with large data volumes. So in apex, we have total 3 methods. So out of that, the execute methods work on a small chunks of the records. So we have to specify the batch size while calling that batchable apex method. So we maximum limitation is 200. So 200 records we can process at a time. So that process executes the data set in small chunks, and all means it gets recall, or it gets recall till all the records from the data set gets executed. So that's the thing that we can use to deal with large data set.
Okay. So do you believe, Mayur, ki there is any facility where we can trace or check the status of running batch?
Yeah, so in asynchronous Apex, we have three things like schedulable Apex, batchable Apex, and the queuable Apex. So these are the three things that gives us a ID when we call them. So using that job ID, we can track the status of the ongoing process, like it is in progress or gets executed or get
Okay.
failed.
Do you know the table name where we have all these tasks or this asynchronous job?
Table name.
Huh? Is there any table or object that saves this status? The record actually?
Schedule operations or activities, I guess.
No,
Not
actually not. ठीक है, no problem. So you said that there is something called an queuable. So if I go by the analysis, what is the difference between the future apex and the queuable apex?
So difference between future method and the queuable apex is so if we call future method, so it gets executed in a separate thread.
Okay.
And it's wait for the system resources to get free. So then it will get started, so that user don't have to wait for that long method to get executed. And with the queuable, I don't think so.
Okay, no problem. So is there any limitation on use of these future methods? Is governor limit putting any restriction on it?
No, for the government method part, governor limits gets applied means phrase governor limit gets applied. So no matter it's get called from the synchronous code. So for the synchronous code, the governor limit is different, and for that future method, the governor limit gets applied is a phrase governor limit.
Okay, but is there any restriction on any transaction we can use any particular limit for the future? Are we restricted with any number of calls to these future methods?
Yeah, so for future, I think limitation is 100 for SOQL.
Okay.
And for so only the difference between the future and the queuable is about, I can say, limited to governor limits. For future method, I can say number of SOQL queries we can use in a single transaction are hundreds, and for queuable these are 200s. The size is 6 MB for the future, and for queuable it's 12 MB. Also the CPU processing time for the future is 1000 milliseconds, and for it it's a 6000 milliseconds. So these are the few differences in government limit.
Okay. So how would you define something called an apex triggers?
So Apex triggers is a code part that
Hmm.
gets executed before or after any data manipulations occur on any object. So we have total two types of triggers in Salesforce or Apex, we can say. So first one is before trigger, and next another one is after trigger. So before trigger gets executed, before the records get saved into the database. So we use before trigger to apply some validations or to update the same record fields, and after trigger we use after trigger gets executed after the data gets or the record gets saved into the database.
Okay.
Or we use it to perform some operations on related records, and to perform some post operation activities like sending emails and etc.
Okay. So we have this ready-made functionality for sending the email.
Yeah.
Can you name the namespace?
So namespace we use to send email is messaging. So messaging is the namespace that we use. So it has few methods by using which we can send mails outside the Salesforce, and also developer can use messaging namespace to
Okay.
work on outgoing and incoming mails or the attachments that we send through email.
Okay. And what is this thing called, let's say ki sometimes in the program we write static, some methods are not static, some methods are returning something, some methods are not returning. What is the utility of that?
So static, if we write a static keyword in any method name, so it means that method is a static method. So static method belongs to class instead of any instead of instance of the class.
Okay.
So static methods we can call with the name of class name. And if we talk about method name where static is not there, so it's a non-static method which belongs to the instance of classes. So static method accepts only static variables, and the non-static method accepts static and non-static variables in a method call.
Okay. And is it possible to use this trigger context variable is in the class? Is it possible?
No, while in a trigger we can pass the trigger context variables, but in a trigger handler where we are writing Apex class, we have
Okay.
to write list or the another variables in case to accept them.
Okay. So do you know any best practices while writing the triggers? Any two?
While writing the trigger, we have to take a care of means our trigger should be able to handle the large data sets.
Okay.
Means it's a bulky file trigger. Plus we have to take care of that we will not write any DML statements inside the loops.
Okay.
Also the SQL queries that we are using, they don't have to be inside the loop.
Okay. But what is the effect if we write an DML inside the loop?
So for a one transaction, we have 150 DML statement usage limitation.
Okay.
So if I'm working on 200 records, so on my 151th iteration of the loop, I will get a DML exception. So that's why, to avoid the DML exception, take the S object instance that you are updating or inserting or whatever operation that you are doing. So take it in a list, and outside the loop insert or perform DML operation on that list.
Okay. Can you name any three exceptions which are observed during the executions?
So first one is null pointer exception. So
Okay.
if we are dereferencing any null variable, or we are performing some operation which is null at a time, null currently.
Okay.
So we will get null pointer exception. Next is DML exception. So as I said, if we cross any limitation, so any DML statement limitation, so we will get DML statement DML exception. And next one is query exception, I can say.
Okay.
Where suppose I am querying one query where I have mentioned limitation of 1, and I have mentioned one condition there also. So if there is no any record with that condition, but as we have mentioned limit of 1, so we will not get any record because the condition is not satisfied. So in that case we will get a query exception.
Okay. So we can fire this query on the related object as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. How many types of relation do we have in the Salesforce then?
So in Salesforce, we have two types of relations mainly:
Hmm.
lookup relationship and master detail relationship.
Okay. And can you elaborate more on something called an master detail?
So master detail relationship is also known as tightly coupled relationships, where parent has to be linked with child. Means the parent and child will not be present alone. Means there should be a linkage between both of them is required, because in tightly coupled relationship, if parent is existing without child, it's not possible. Every time they have to be interlinked with each other. So in master detail lookup relationship, we have cascading delete. Means in case if parent get deleted, so associated child also will get deleted, because in master detail relationship, child records inherits the security and
Okay.
sharing settings from the master. So and also the owner of the parent record is the owner of the child record also. And with master data relationship, we have one concept of roll up summary. So roll up summary we use to calculate some aggregated functions, like it can give us a summarized results of the related records, like how many records we have related to any parent, a maximum number, minimum number,
Okay.
or any average of any numeric field we are having on a child object. So
Okay.
these are the feelings.
So let's say you mentioned something called an roll-up summary field. If I want to implement this feature like an roll-up summary field, but the relation is not in master detail, it's a lookup. So what are the facilities or tools available to me to bring that relation, bring that kind of an field?
So I think we cannot build a roll-up summary at lookup side, means in lookup relationship, because as I said, in master data relationship, it's a tightly coupled. Means parent and child will not present alone. Means the linkage should be there. So
Okay.
so this is the thing which I can say it not present in a lookup. Means in lookup, parent or child can exist without any linkage. Means it means, for example, there is one parent who is not having any child, plus there are few child records which are not having assigned parent. So if we build roll up summary in case of lookup relationship, then it's difficult for the system to calculate the things, and the calculate things will be in inaccurate.
Okay. But let's say if you want to build that feature, so can we use trigger for it?
Yeah, we can
Is it
use.
possible to
Yeah.
implement that? Yes. Is it possible to implement the same thing with the flows as well?
Yeah, we can do by using the flows also.
Okay. So in the era of this flow, where we are doing every automation without any scripting, right? So do you think that the trigger has a place?
Yes, I can say, because with flow we can handle the operations which are getting which are means we can handle the operations after any DML operations it gets performed on records. But with the help of triggers, I can say we
Okay.
can handle we can handle some operations before the records get saved into a database.
Okay. Can you describe something called an undelete event in the triggers? What is
Until
that exactly?
Yeah, so undelete event means we only have after undelete. We don't have any before undelete event in Apex, because before trigger works on the record that are not currently exist in database. So it performs operations on the data which is going to be get saved into the database. So we
Okay.
only have after undelete. So after undelete we operation we use like suppose few records are present in our recycle bin. So once they get restored in our system back, means in our database back. So if we want to perform some operations, we can use after undelete.
Okay. Do you know in Salesforce we have something called an recycle bin?
Yes.
Right. Do you believe that that is a table? That's an
Yeah.
object?
Yeah.
Yes. So let's say if you deleted some contacts, where exactly I'll find that contacts?
So you can
In yes, what would be the table status of that contact for the time being when it's deleted?
yeah, so to find any deleted contacts which is present in recycle bin, so we have one flag like is deleted.
Okay.
So if it's a true, then it means that record is deleted and present in recycle bin. If it's false, then you can say it's exists in a database or in
Okay.
a table.
So we do still believe that there is a table called an recycle bin.
Yes, I would say.
Okay. And is it accessible to the user or the developer?
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
Yes. So let's say कि if I want to fire a query,
Mhm.
ठीक है, to retrieve all the records which are there in the recycle bin. Let's say कि I want to find particular the contacts which have been deleted, right? So how can we fire the query?
So you just have to write any query
Hmm.
to retrieve those records, and at the end you have to write all rows. So all rows means you are telling to check for the records in recycle bins too.
Okay.
So it will bring back all the deleted records which are meeting your condition, and if they are present in recycle bin, so you will get them.
Okay. And what is the main difference between this SOQL and the SOSL? What is the utility difference?
So SOQL we use to fetch the records from the database, and SOSL we use to search particular field or phrases in our all the objects. So these are the main difference I can say. So SOQL is a Salesforce object query language. We use to query the language, query the records for our operations in our code.
But does it has any relevancy?
Relevant
SOSL. If only search is the purpose, does it still have the relevancy?
relevancy in terms of,
Relevancy in the terms of an programming aspect. Do we still need that?
yeah, we need that.
We need
So
that.
yeah.
Yes. What are the instance where the only SOSL will come to the help? Any instance you find?
So if you want to show the records
Hmm.
which have that particular field or particular word or phrase,
Okay.
so you can query those records using the SOSL, and you can display them on Visual Force page.
Okay. Can you bring some light on something called an Salesforce database? What kind of a database we have in the Salesforce?
Means,
A database, like how a data, like how the Salesforce stores the data.
yeah, so I can say it's a table, like a database table, where records are get stored in terms of rows and columns, I can say.
Okay.
So where the column heading, we can say it's a field, and each record present in our database or present in our object is like a table row, where we can say the entry is like a row of the table,
Okay.
and the field present between any cell is a field value present in any record.
Okay. And have you heard of something called a matching rule in the Salesforce?
Yeah.
Yes. What is that exactly?
So matching rule help us to identify the things while any records is get created. So suppose any contact is present in my object or in my database, I can say.
Okay.
So if I want to avoid any duplication, so I can create a matching rule on contacts. So also we have one concept of duplicate rule. So
Okay.
I will use that matching rule in a duplicate rule to avoid the creation of duplicate things.
Okay. Now let's say कि if you want to implement this feature, this matching rule and duplicate rule feature, using the trigger, is it possible to implement that? Can a
So
trigger find?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure about it. ठीक है. But can we have conditions inside the trigger? Is it a right way to write a trigger?
Condition inside trigger.
Uh-huh. Is it? Is it a right way to define the trigger?
No, means we can write a logic in trigger handler class.
Okay.
So that our trigger and trigger handler class will be separated. So the trigger will have only a call to the trigger handler, and any logic that we want to use that we can use write inside a trigger handler class.
Okay. So is it a possibility कि this handler class may be from the asynchronous apex?
Asynchronous apex.
Yes. Is it possible the handler itself is a batch apex?
I would say no.
No. So trigger cannot have an batch apex as an handler?
So we can write that call
Okay.
inside the trigger handler class.
Okay. So let's say कि if trigger is going through a bulk of data, millions of data. So how is handling that data for the time being when we have the governor limit implemented? Yes.
Yeah, so we can use a batchable apex for it. For that, we can use a query locator. So because with the list, we have the limitations, but with the query locator, we can fetch the records near around 50 millions, I can say.
Okay.
So by using the batch, I can process the records in the small chunks, and my execute method will get called itself till all the records from the data set gets executed.
Okay. So have you used any controllers on the Visual Force page?
Yes, I have.
Can you name some?
So in Visual Force page, we have total two types of controller: the standard controller and our own custom controller, which we call it a controller only. So these are the two things. Along with the controllers, we can also use one concept of extensions. to provide some additional logic or additional support to our controllers.
Okay, and is it possible to write both the controllers at a time, where we can write a standard controller along with the uh, custom controller, that
No,
is Apex controller?
no.
Is there no possibility? Then what is something called an extension controller?
So extension controller means the condition is in one Visual Force page you can either use standard controller or the controller,
Okay.
but to provide any additional support or additional logic we can use extensions. So extension is also Apex class which we write. So in that extension controller means the Apex class, we have to write one constructor, and in that constructor we have to pass one Apex page. If we are using a standard controller, then you have to pass one parameter, and the parameter is Apex pages dot standard controller. So that parameter will convey your Apex class that you have to act as a extension instead of a main class. So the main controller will be the standard or custom controller that you are using, and the extension controller will be like supporter, like any country is having prime minister and vice prime minister. So our standard controller or the custom controller,
Okay.
they will act as a PM, and the extension will act as a vice PM.
Okay. So let's say we have this abstract class concept. Is it possible to write a constructor inside the abstract class?
Yes, we can write.
Right? And can we override it?
Yeah, we can.
We can. And can this constructor be called by the child classes?
Yeah. So in case of abstract class, so the child class, using child class we can call a constructor of the abstract class. So suppose if you have not written any default constructor or any type of constructor in abstract class, and you have also not called it in a child class constructor, still system or the compiler will add default constructor in abstract class, and it will implicitly call the constructor of the super class
Okay.
by default. But if you have written any parameterized constructor in abstract class, but you forget to call it in a child class constructor, then you will get a compile time error.
Okay. And what is the compile time error exactly?
So I think while compiling the code, if system recognizes some things are wrong or missing, or like I said, we have written one constructor but we forget to call it. So that's the thing that I can say useful thing. So if while compiling the code, if there is any issue or any syntactical issue, you can also say.
Okay.
So you will get a compile time error.
So we have a very solid concept called an abstract class. Do you still believe that this interface has a place to be in the programming, or is just an worthless thing available in the program?
No, interface we can use to separate the declaration of the method and the actual implementation. So I can say we can use interface to take one layer of abstraction where our code is getting more secured, where in interface we are just having the code declared or the method declared, but as per our requirement we can give different definitions to those methods. So we can say code reusability will be there, or as per the requirement different developers can implement the interface as per their need.
Okay. So what would be the reason behind कि we always have an interface without any access modifier methods being defined there? Every method starts with the void, or let's say the return type, but we are not having any access modifier in specific. What would be the reason behind it?
So if any interface is assigned with public access specifier, then all the methods
Okay.
inside it will be a public by default. So that's the reason I can say.
Okay. So my final question to you, Mayur, right? So we have these SOQLs. How many clauses do you remember apart from where?
Apart from where?
Yes, where is one clause that we used, right, to filter the data. But can we filter the data without using where?
So I can say we can use having also.
Okay.
So having is also a clause like a where, so which filters the result, but it works with only a grouped query results.
Okay. So is it possible to use two clauses together in the SOQL?
Means you are saying inside where we can
Yes.
use two conditions. Yeah, we can use.
Yes. And what would be the instance? What would be the stance or scenario where you can describe कि this situation will need and two clauses to be used?
Okay, so suppose I want to query some accounts where the status is, for example, say active, or
Okay.
the rating is hot.
Okay.
If I'm not wrong about the field names, I can say. So where I'm having a requirement, like I want to fetch only the records where account is active and it's having a rating of hot. So I can add these two conditions in a where clause, separated with and or if you want two conditions, uh, both gets passed, or you want anyone to be gets passed. So as per that you can use a and or between them, and you can fetch the records.
Okay. So that's it, Mayur. Thank you for the interview. I hope that this interview might be helpful for you for the near opportunities, right? While observing your interview, while observing your answer, I feel like there were some spots, or you can say the lacunas, which need to be filled. The very first one was the governor limit. I asked the question, key, what is the exact transaction count that restrict the future methods to be used? So the answer would be 50, right? That's been restricted by the governor limit. So we cannot use more than 50 future calls in one transactions. You can use it further in the next call, but while transacting the single transaction, the 50 is the limit. The second one, the batch apex thing, the batch apex can be the handler, right? So there would be an instance when we need to handle some large data set, migrating from somewhere, migrating from one table to another, deleting from some table. So we'll need to handle that through the batch apex. So yes, we can call batch apex from the trigger itself, no problem in that, right? Apart from that, your interview was well good, well managed, right? Everything was perfect and fine. The technical aspects were good. There were few gaps that need to be filled, but I'll mention in the mail that will be worked on, but that would not create any hurdles in the real-time interviews, right? I hope so. I hope this experience was good to you as well, right? And thank you for this interview. Thank you.